There's one question that I've always had. How do players like Malmsteen and Paul Gilbert alternate pick so perfectly and so fast? And after doing an alarming amount of research on alternate picking, it turns out that we've been lied to. This idea of alternate picking even notes leads us to believe that you should also be alternate picking with an even tempo, up, down, consistently. But apparently there's a third type of stroke that seemingly every pro player knows about, but never seems to acknowledge when talking about alternate picking. And that third type of stroke is what I'm referring to now as a hook stroke. And this is something I've never seen anybody talk about before, because when it comes to alternate picking, we know we have upstrokes and downstrokes. And if you play those evenly on one string, you're fine. But what happens when you have to traverse to another string? Now, if we're playing to a metronome and we perform an outside pick at the same tempo as our alternate picking, we will fall behind. But here's the thing. If you're playing relatively slow, you can fall out of time and then make up for it later to get back on beat. But when you're playing at high speeds, you don't have time to do this. And this is one of the main reasons why so many players play 16th note triplets at high speed instead of true 16th notes. They were never properly educated on the hook stroke, and so they thought to themselves, alternate picking is just impossible. As soon as I get to a certain speed, it's not gonna be a thing for me. And trust me, I understand I'm giving a ton of context leading up to the hook stroke, but these are things that have to be said because this video will change your life. Now, with that being said, let's get into how to actually do a hook stroke properly so you can finally hit 160 or 170 BPM with real 16th notes. Now, to perform a hook stroke, you have to inject a burst of acceleration into your outside pick. Let me show you what I mean. Now, as I'm traversing from one string to the other, I have to perform that outside pick right here. And if I'm doing it at very high speeds, in order to actually reach around the string and stay in time, I have to play that particular stroke faster. Now, if I have a super tiny picking window on the E string, in order to reach around the A string, I have to increase the distance. And to be able to cover the distance in the same amount of time, I physically have to move faster. That is the only way to stay in time. Now, I'm gonna play this very slow to try and exaggerate the movement, but really pay attention to my distance traveled and also the tempo of what you hear. Now, I'm gonna show you an example, very, very slow and a little bit dramatic, of what happens if I don't do a hook stroke and play at the true same tempo across strings. Very, very slow. Watch. Obviously that's very slow, but if you sped that up to 180 BPM, that is what's actually happening, and that is why you're falling behind the beat. Whereas if I have that burst of acceleration, even at a slow pace, you can physically see that I still have to move substantially faster to reach the other string in time. Watch. Like I had mentioned, in order for me to truly stay in time, that burst of acceleration to get around the corner has to happen. Now, what I need you to understand is that at very high speeds, everything is amplified. And if we compared it to weightlifting, it's the exact same thing. If you're someone who can barely get up 225 on the bench press, trying to go to 230 might be the straw that broke the camel's back. It's just too much, even though it's a difference of only 5 pounds. And I say this because if you try to play at those high speeds without that burst of acceleration, that hook stroke that will keep you in time, that is where everything falls apart. Finally, you truly have an answer as to why you cannot get above 120 or why you cannot get above 160 or whatever it is that you're reaching for. Now, I'm sure you've been very curious as to what this graphic is in the corner and why has it been here the entire video. But what it is an exercise that I came up with to help practice the hook stroke. It's a 3-note per string exercise where we have 3 groups of 6 notes played ascending and descending, and it sounds like this. So essentially you're just playing the burst, that hook stroke, over and over and over again. For that particular exercise, I was playing at 155 BPM. You can play this way slower than that to get it under your fingers and then try to increase. But you're gonna notice that when you have to transition from one string to the next, that burst of acceleration is necessary to stay in time at the higher BPMs. Once you get up into the 170s, 180s, if you're crazy and you get to the 200s, you're really gonna have to lock that in, and this is the difference maker, I promise. Now, if you're someone who realizes how game-changing this actually is, and you want even more exercises, check out this video right here.